What's going on, Summoners? I'm Kangas, and in today's video, I'm covering our Challenger Coach's updated tier list and following up on all the changes from this patch. There's a lot that's moved around, so hit that sub button, and let's just get right into it.
First, we'll start off with the top lane. The one change to go over this patch is to Jax. He got some nice buffs to help him scale better, and there's already noticeable improvement. Considering data from all ranks, his win rate has increased by a little bit more than 1.5%. We expect this to go up just a little bit more if given more time. Two picks to be on the lookout for are Nocturne and Singed. First, we've moved Nocturne up to the S tier. We didn't move him up previously because we didn't have a big enough sample size of games to work off of. After proving for many patches in a row that he can consistently perform at an exceptional level, we moved him up. Nocturne's ability to flex into the mid lane and jungle also add to his value as a pick. He got a very nice buff back on patch 11.2, reducing the cooldown on his Q and ultimate. Ever since then, things have been going up. We moved Wukong down into the A tier after a quick look at the list as well. Singed, meanwhile, is doing very well at the moment, and partially due to how the meta has swung. More and more of his good matchups are becoming popular, for example, Jax, who just got buffed, and while he does struggle a bit against the most popular pick Gnar, Singed does pretty well against most of the other top laners, and thus succeeding as a niche pick right now. If you want to pick him up, do it fast before the meta shifts. Also, I gotta let you guys know that we're offering 20% off of subscriptions at ProGuides.com with the code RANKUP2021, so make sure to check that out. So our OP picks for the top lane are Darius, Garen, and Gnar, followed by Malphite, Aatrox, Camille, Maokai, Poppy, Cho'Gath, Riven, Mordekaiser, Fiora, Urgot, and Nocturne in the S tier. Next up is the jungle. So in the jungle, we got a few changes to review. First is Udyr, who received a couple of nerfs this patch. Not only was his Phoenix stance damage reduced, but he was also left a little less durable as well. While his statistics have dropped quite a bit, Udyr retains an immense ban rate and remains in the OP tier for now. Due to his high ban rate, his pick rate is at a rather low point as well. However, Udyr still finds a good amount of success, but finds strong competitors this patch. Speaking of Udyr, let's talk about our question of the day. Which OP pick from either the preseason or in recent patches do you think was the most oppressive? Even though I abused the hell out of it, I think that AP Maokai support is still one of the most frustrating champions to deal with before his nerfs came in. It's still tough now, but it's definitely easier to deal with than before. But let me know your answer in the comments down below. Next up on the nerfs, Rammus received nerfs to his health, and while we didn't expect him to take a big hit in low elo, his win rates have dropped more than 2% overall. Hitting Rammus' health does have more impact than other champions. His high resistances means that he ends up with a ton of effective health, thus lowering the amount of health that he ends with has a bigger effect than we first anticipated. So we readjusted Rammus and placed him in the A tier. Gragas also received nerfs this patch. Like we thought, Gragas' jungle stats haven't been affected too much, and surprisingly his win rate in top lane has only dropped a little bit as well. But mid lane Gragas is struggling way more this patch. For now though, he'll still keep his placement in the B tier. Trundle is next, and he got a huge buff on his Q this patch. We moved him up to the B tier and he's there to stay. There's even room for this to grow as his play rate has already nearly doubled halfway through the patch. While he's at a 49% win rate in Platinum and higher, this is almost a 2.5% increase from last patch. Overall elos, he has broken the 50% mark though, so don't be afraid to give him a try, especially if the enemy team only has one tank. Master Yi also received a buff, and his win rate has increased by about 1% in both high elo as well as overall. This isn't much of a surprise as he simply received a flat damage buff to his E. Sejuani is last, and she got a buff to her W. While the change hasn't had the same impact as Trundle's buff, she's doing much better this patch. Her win rates have increased by about a whole percent, leaving her at a 51% win rate overall and just short of 50% in higher elos. Sejuani's utility makes her a great pick with the right team comps, so think carefully about what your team needs before locking her in. For other changes, we first moved Echo and Kayn down into the S tier. As the meta has shifted, these two picks have gradually fallen off. Although they were once OP and extremely powerful, there are more oppressive picks who are currently dominating the jungle right now. In the case of Kayn, he truly only finds great success at the very top. We've noticed that a few Challenger Kayns are able to hard carry games, but aside from these rare exceptions, the champion has been underperforming. Conversely, Shaco has actually seen a small increase in his win rate in high elo following the changes this patch. Support Shaco did get a nerf, but his box damage was increased against jungle monsters. With Udyr weaker this patch, Shaco has had a chance to shine as he was basically left untouched as a jungler. The pressure he can provide with his early ganks, or the threat of them, plays a crucial role in how games play out. Finally, Elise has been moved into the OP tier. Like Shaco, Udyr's nerf has given her a chance to take the spotlight. At elite levels of play, she's doing disgustingly well, and she's even found over a 53% win rate in high elo Korean solo queue. This success isn't limited to just elite players though, as we've noticed her win rates are close to 52% overall. That being said, she's not the easiest champion in the game, but she's also not the hardest, and her current ban rate is much lower than it should be. Definitely pick her up, especially if you're duoing, and make sure to take advantage of her oppressive tower diving potential. Because of this change, we've also moved Viego down to the S tier. So our OP picks in the jungle are Hecarim, Udyr, and Elise, followed up by Kha'Zix, Graves, Evelynn, Nunu, Ivern, Fiddlesticks, Karthus, Viego, Skarner, and Shaco in the S tier. Next, let's run through the mid lane. In the mid lane, we'll start off with the Azir nerf. While it wasn't necessary for solo queue players, he was just too strong in competitive play. Like you'd expect, he's doing really poorly right now with a 45% win rate overall. They took a champion underperforming in solo queue and then nerfed them some more. It's a pretty unfortunate circumstance, but hopefully he'll find some changes in the near future to help him find balance at all levels of play. Next, we've got Qiyana, who received massive buffs this patch. Her W damage and ultimate damage were both buffed. Like before, Qiyana is ridiculously powerful in elite levels of play, and her win rate overall increased by more than a whole percent, but still struggles in low elo specifically. We'll keep Qiyana in the S tier because of her incredible power and high elo. The final adjustment we made are that Malphite and Seraphine have been moved down to the A tier, while Ahri has been moved up to the S tier. Seraphine's duo lane nerfs had a bigger effect than we expected on her as a mid laner. Unfortunately, the loss of her smooth progression ends up making Seraphine weaker as a solo laner as well. There's gaps in power, and while she's able to fill them in faster than the support or bot lane Seraphine, the loss of some damage has made laning much more challenging. Malphite has also been dropped down as he's gradually fallen off as a pick. Following a few nerfs this season, he's become a more niche mid laner who can be used as a counter pick specifically against AD matchups. On the other hand, Ahri has actually been finding plenty of success in the past few patches. Everfrost might play a part in this as it makes it much harder to dodge Ahri's charm. As a result, Ahri's pick making is much more deadly than before, and as a safe mid lane pick, she's able to perform consistently. Finally, Zed has been moved into the OP tier. He's a great carry in the right hands, but also his ban rates have climbed significantly. Overall, they break the 40% mark right now. Not only does he have a ton of kill pressure in lane, Zed is another safe pick that can be pretty hard to shut out. While there are certainly niche picks, Zed can either win or force a far matchup against most popular mid laners. Following up on the other changes we made this patch, Pyke is now much weaker in the mid lane. His play rates have dropped substantially, and his win rate is a bit below 50% at the moment. On the other hand, like we expected, Corki is performing rather well outside of very high elo. The changes to Muramana have actually benefited him as he's capable of playing around slow methodical play by poking enemies down. Also, his package is just nuts now. So our OP picks in the mid lane are Yone, Anivia, Kassadin, and Zed, followed up by Pantheon, Victor, Annie, Katarina, Galio, Fizz, Echo, Qiyana, Viego, Diana, Talon, Yasuo, and Ahri in the S tier. Next up, bottom lane. In the bot lane, we saw Seraphine get nerfed this patch. While the nerfs were intended to specifically target bot lane Seraphine, she's now weaker across all roles. But surprisingly, bot lane Seraphine is actually doing pretty well. Mid and support Seraphine got the short end of the stick, as bottom lane Seraphine is still sitting near a 54% win rate overall. While her play rate is still pretty low, we've moved her back to the S tier as it appears that the nerfs haven't completely gotten the job done just yet. Senna was also nerfed through changes to Guinsoo's Rage Blade. Bottom lane Senna's win rate has dropped about 2% as a result of those nerfs, and players might need to scramble to look for new builds very soon. We're still content with her current placement in the A tier for now. Kog'Maw got buffed this patch, and while he's doing rather well in terms of win rate, his pick rate is still abysmally low. Guess that B skin didn't help him out too much. There's plenty of other alternatives still that players lean towards, so we'll still leave him in the B tier. Samira was also buffed this patch to help mitigate the massive nerfs she previously received. Her win rate has already increased by 4% since last patch, and we heavily underestimated how much 0.7 AD per level would actually do for her. She's back to the A tier for now. Next is Twitch, as he received some changes to make him a stronger AD pick, but weaker AP. AD builds have become much more popular this patch, and his win rate has only dropped by about 1/5%. We'll leave him in the A tier for the update. However, we have moved Swain up to the S tier. While he isn't played often, his win rate has consistently hovered around 55% for the past few patches now. He's definitely a strong pick because of his damage, crowd control, and tankiness, and when paired with a support who can lock down enemies, Swain kill pressure is suffocating, especially after level 6. You just gotta make sure you have the right matchup for this one, and he's really good right now. Veigar has also been added to the bottom lane tier list. Following buffs on patch 11.4, bot lane Veigar has gradually been seeing more and more play. While the sample size of games is still rather low, he's doing pretty well for himself with a 53% win rate overall right now. We won't bump him up just yet, as we need to give players some time to adapt. However, considering that a lot of bot lane matchups end up turning into farm fest, it's no surprise that Veigar is doing pretty well, especially in low elos where games last longer. Finally, Jinx has been moved into the OP tier, while Tristana and Miss Fortune have swapped places. Miss Fortune isn't as oppressive as she's been in the past, and there's plenty of picks who can either take her head on or just hold on and scale up. One of the interesting adaptations we saw in the bot lane meta was a shift to longer range AD carries. Senna, for example, was previously destroying solo queue because of her powerful scaling and high range. Although Senna is weaker now, picks like Jinx and Tristana are gaining traction, and part of this is definitely due to that high range. They can safely deal high damage, and players regularly purchase Rapid Fire Cannon to help supplement this. Tristana specifically is a champion we're keeping our eyes on, as her win rates in high elo are close to 52%. In the bot lane, our OP picks are Kai'Sa and Jinx, followed up by Ezreal, Ashe, Vayne, Jhin, Caitlyn, Seraphine, Swain, and Tristana in the S tier. Finally, let's conclude with supports. For supports, let's collectively breathe a sigh of relief and talk about Shaco. Like we mentioned earlier, he did receive nerfs to make him a weaker support. Yay! While his win rates have dropped more than 1% at most brackets, we're still leaving him in the B tier for now. A little weaker than before, Shaco support unfortunately still remains a viable pick. Rell received a big nerf to her W's cooldown, as well as a small nerf to her base armor. Although her win rates have dropped, she remains a strong pick overall, so we'll leave her in the S tier. While she was on the border of the OP tier, this nerf has eliminated that possibility for now. Although Pyke's changes were targeted towards solo lanes, they have resulted in a lower win rate overall. We attribute this to the fact that his play rate has actually increased. More players are willing to give him a try, meaning that players with less experience were more prone to playing him this patch. Objectively, he's a stronger support, but there's definitely ways to work around the changes from this patch, and there's a good chance that Pyke gets looked at again in the near future. Following a buff to her Q this patch, we moved Karma up to the B tier. Her play rate has actually shot up significantly this patch, and we're okay with her initial assessment thus far. The only other change that we have to note is we moved Nami down into the A tier. She's still a good choice, but other enchanters are currently taking the spotlight because most of them just scale better. Our OP picks for supports are Leona and Thresh, followed up by Lulu, Bard, Morgana, Janna, Alistar, Brand, Nautilus, and Rell in the S tier.
And that will conclude our mid-patch update for patch 11.5. Thanks so much for watching, really hope you enjoyed it, and like always, remember to like the video, sub to the channel, join our Discord in the link through the description. Love to have you as part of our community. But most importantly, as always, best of luck on the Rift. Stay hydrated, and I'll see you next time.